Hi everyone, this is Taylor with Farmhand, and today we are coming to you to show you a little bit, just a glimpse of kind of what we're setting up for the coming spring. We're very excited because versus last fall, a little bit of what you saw us do there, since we started so late in the season and with all things COVID, we didn't have much of a chance to really hone in on the flower side of Farmhand, so we're really excited to let that take off now. So what we've been doing over the last few weeks, unfortunately, Manuel and I came down with COVID-19 in early January of 2021. And during that time, we had, we were very lucky and we are very grateful that we didn't become as ill as we could have been. But during that time, we had so many seeds here in bags of soil here and seed trays we'd already purchased, planning to start, getting seeds going. We went ahead, during that time of our quarantine and our illness, when we felt good, we went ahead and just started doing some sowing. So seed sowing, if you will. So we did start some, which I will show you shortly, and I want to talk about the mistakes that we made. So we are learning. We're not perfect. We didn't come into the flower farming game knowing everything to do. So we're learning along the way, and that's a part of also including you, all of you on YouTube and all of you who are following us, so that you can even give us some insight for your seed sowing tricks, plant to plant, if you will, or flower to flower, if you will, based on what you know. And then hopefully growing with you, we'll learn along the way. So real quick, I'll show you what we've got here. Manuel just planted a ton of zinnia seeds. So here in the spring, we're gonna have a specific garden with, I wanna say so we're gonna have about 6 50-foot rows of zinnias, and it plays out to be about 300 zinnia plants that we'll have growing. This specific variety, we have a cell tray of, I believe this is 72. We started with doing peat pots, and we've moved now to doing I can't even think of what they're called. I'll show you what they look like, and you'll see what they look like. They're the little cells, if you will, the little soil cells that you can just transplant right into the ground. You don't have to worry about cutting anything. Of course, like with the initial ones that we started with, anything that we put into the ground, we can go ahead and use, such as the peat pots. Those can just go right into the ground too, but we prefer these. We've started a couple of batches of seeds just with different methods. And the peat pots, we notice they become warped over time, they rip over time. It's so hard to, while it's nice to see that when they dry out, it's easy to tell when it's time to water and all of that. But we notice more consistency with these so far in our seeds, but every gardener has their different preference. So we're kind of moving into the direction of using these instead. And of course it varies plant to plant and flower to flower. And what we planted in this is the giant double enchantress. But we've got 72 of these here of the 300 that we plan to do. I know that we've got the Zinnia Queenie Lime Red, some Zinnia Lime, I can't think of the name of them, but they're like a lime, light green color. And then we've also got some, I believe it's called Zinnia Oklahoma Salmon, or Zinnia Salmon. They're like a salmon tone, kind of a pinky-ish color. They're really beautiful. So we've got a lot of variety of zinnia we're going to be doing, and the great thing about them is that they go for so long during the season in our zone that we're in Zone 6B, and they, being cut and come again, we can't wait to see how this garden plays out. So I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of what we've done before this and show you where our mistakes were. We did do quite a bit of lavender. The lavender's doing okay so far. We did honeywort, snapdragons. Oh goodness, there's just so many others. I'll show them to you. All right, guys, so excuse my ignorance. What you just saw are the peat pellets. They're the pellets that expand when you add water to them, versus the peat pots, which you see here. I'll give you guys kind of like a closer look at these, but these are our lavender that we started growing, our English lavender. And let me double check. This is, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10, 20. So we started with 50 seedlings in here. This was back in, I think, the second week of January, back when Manuel and I were experiencing COVID, and we were really stuck indoors with our soil and our seeds that we had already and the seed trays that we'd pre-purchased. So the thing about the peat pots, and you'll see this when you get a closer look, is that with the peat pots, I know it's easy to notice that there's like a lot of mold that can develop on them over time. So we really struggled kind of going back and forth. I'm especially trying to get these guys to strengthen up as far as trying to like harden them off, if you will, by having a fan going, you know, trying to limit the mold, but also give these guys enough enough wind, just something to try to help harden the, you know, strengthen the actual stems of them. Many of them are to the point to where you can, of course, you can rub your finger on them. They smell amazing. You can smell their lavender. But I think out of the 50, we maybe have about 30 or 35 that are just okay. They're doing well. Like they've got multiple leaves on them for their true leaves. So it was a good first go. One of our some of our mistakes though here on the lavender, obviously, once you see them up close, you'll notice that they're quite leggy, and some of them are quite leggy, I should say. With that being said, when we began, we did not have the right equipment. And I will say, if you're going to do any of this, even for your own personal garden, start with the right equipment and don't waste your time. Because you'll find in the next tray I'm about to show you that if you don't have the right lighting and it's not at an optimal height for growing your seedlings, they're going to become extremely leggy and they are going to flop over and just die on you. Many of our lavender have done that so far. Some of them have made a comeback, but they're just so crazy and wiry and long that once those true leaves show up, it just weighs them down. So let me go ahead and show you the next. It's probably where we made our biggest mistakes on our next seed tray. All right, guys, so on this seed tray here, this is ultimately what I really wanted to talk about today. We did several different varieties here that I'll show you. And then just kind of backtracking to the lavender that I was just speaking of a moment ago. Manuel was just informing me, we've talked about so many different options. We're gonna go with the plastic, the actual, like the plastic seed cells, and go with those instead. We've seen a couple of garden centers in our area that have actually started their seeds that way, as far as you know, of course, filling with soil, going ahead and sprinkling all of our lavender seeds on top, and then dressing the very top with vermiculite. We're going to give that a shot. Again, this is all just experimentation. If you know and you've been successful with another way of growing your lavender, please tell us in the comments. We will take, you know, constructive feedback to help us do better as we're learning. So let's get into this seed tray. This is the fun one, but this is also, for me, this was a tough one because as things were happening, I knew that we were starting to find mistakes kind of here and there. So to begin, we've got rutabaga that we were growing, baby's breath that we were trying to grow, honeywort, which is, I love honeywort, bells of Ireland, beautiful, great filler, honeywort and bells of Ireland, great filler, and then snapdragons. I think this is just University of California mix. So number one mistake that we made with our snapdragons, we should have pinched these way sooner than we did. They got about probably 3 inches high before we even cut them back the first time. But you'll see when you look at them up close that you'll be able to tell where we cut them back, and then of course things are branching out. So with our honeywort, or let me start, so that we talked about the snapdragons, with the bells of Ireland, now these are all thriving and doing well, and maybe this is just what happens with bells of Ireland, but I know that they got really leggy to start because of the lighting situation, so they're just all warped and crazy. They're making a comeback. I think out of the 10, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so 80–90% germination rate there. With the honeywort, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we had 100% germination rate on the honeywort. And actually, the honeywort was the first thing to come up. And it came up so quick. With the honeywort, same situation. Lighting not being adequate for them, they stretched out so badly. And then also, there's research I need to do that I should have done a better job at, as far as if we need to pinch the honeywort too. And as we go into, this is almost like a test tray. As we go into doing these again and doing full trays of one thing, these are things that I'm going to be correcting. So of course, looking into pinching honeywort, if that's a thing, I'm gonna double check on that. We had to tie these up. Some of them are standing straight up and they're doing just fine. They've hardened off just enough that they can support their own weight, even having us put them through being you know, so leggy and stretched out. But you can see many of them are just flopped over, but they're still doing fine. They're continually getting new leaves, shedding their old beginning leaves. Going into the baby's breath here, we've got out of the 10, 3. So 30%, and to be very honest, these were an old seed packet from our baby's breath that we had last year from our personal garden. So on these, there's probably a reason. We probably had a bad batch, or maybe this is just an old seed packet. We probably should have started fresh with a new seed packet, but 30% germination rate on those. Again, they got leggy. You can see on the larger one here, as you look up close, that those are also kind of windy and come around, and they're trying to correct themselves. Because we have new lighting now, all of these are really trying their hardest to correct themselves. The Rudbeckia that we planted here, and this is the, actually I can't read Manuel's handwriting. So anyway, this is whatever variety this is that's growing. We also had only a 30% germination rate. Only 3 of the 10 came up. But they've been doing fine. They're perfect. The 3 that are popping up, they're gonna be great plants, I'm sure of it. Again, with the peat pots here, we did have some areas of mold growth as well as like a lot of gnats. So I don't know if it's because of the type of peat pot cells that they are, but many of these I know that we're gonna try to either do in plastic trays or in our peat pellets instead. As far as giving this a second try. And again, this to me, when we did this kind of during our downtime having COVID, at this point, I look at this almost as a practice tray here. I'm gonna show you guys a couple of last seed cells that we've started with the pellets that we have, the peat pellets. And I'll show you how those have done. We just started them about 2 weeks ago, and I'll tell you the flower types that we started. All right, guys, so this is our little experiment here as well. These are Manuel's hollyhock that he has been growing. We used the peat pellets for these. The germination rate was really good on these. Of the 25 that we have here, 5, 10, 15. Yeah, out of the 25 that are here, only 5 of the of these peat pellets did not have any germination happen with them yet, at least. There's still about 2 seedlings that are still coming up here. However, they're looking great so far. They're looking healthy. They're loving the light that we have for them. So very excited to see how these do. And to wrap things up for our video today, it really wasn't a whole lot. We just wanted to show you some things that we've been working on. Many YouTubers, gardeners out there, they'll tell you in all of their videos, sometimes you've got to find things to do to get you through winter, because there's really not too terribly much that you can do. Not unless, you're a large farm operation and you're doing, other things, other crop in the meantime, or preparing for other things in the meantime, whether it comes to the land or what have you. But since we're a smaller operation to start, we're ultimately just waiting on the moment to happen. As far as our last freeze here in Wichita, Kansas, and so I should say Mulvane, Kansas, where the farm is, and just gearing up for that moment. It's about to be the first week of March, so we're really close, which is why we're starting all of these zinnia seeds, and amongst other seeds that we will be starting this week too. But we're really excited to see how we do our first year. This is technically our first season of trying to grow seeds and planting them out in the field. We'll be doing direct sowing too. Right now we've got the 500 bulbs of daffodils and tulips that are actually sprouting as we speak, plus our little setup that we've got for our little grow room in our house. I'll show you that too. But again, just getting ready for the season, so wish us luck. And thank you guys again so much for watching.